Welcome back to Gold and Blued, everybody. And if you're a college football fan, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. That is all we do here, college football videos every single day. And make sure to send gear to Gold and Blued to represent your team on my back wall. I have a P.O. Box now. The address is P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina 29657. You can send anything you want to represent your team. I really love those mini helmets, but I know they're a little expensive. One of my subscribers just sent this to me, so this will be going on my back wall. So make sure to send me gear to represent your team. Week 1 is in the books, and of course the new AP Top 25 is out. I was doing a live show and I didn't look at the AP Top 25, so I decided to do a live reaction on my live stream. So if you want to see my live reaction to the actual AP Top 25 for this week, go check out my live show from last night. But man, it kind of floored me. And I know technically it doesn't mean anything, but really, if you think about it, it does, because it's setting up for the future. And it does count towards your resume. Oh, they beat a pretty good team back in week 1, week 2, you know, whatever. If it's really, really close and they're splitting hairs, it actually does matter. So here's a quick rundown of the AP Top 25 after week 1. From 25 to number 1. Number 25, Houston. 24, Tennessee. 23, Wake Forest. 22, Ole Miss. 21, BYU. 20, Kentucky. 19, Wisconsin. 18, NC State. 17, Pitt. 16, Arkansas. 15, Miami. 14, Michigan State. 13, Utah. 12, Florida. 11, Oklahoma State. 10, USC. 9, Baylor. 8, Notre Dame. 7, Oklahoma. 6, Texas A&M. 5, Clemson. 4, Michigan. 3, Ohio State. 2, Georgia. And 1, Alabama. Now, I did my new top 25 yesterday, so you can compare. Very, very different from the AP top 25. And I'm looking at this and a bunch of questions pop out. First of all, how did Georgia not do enough to earn that number 1 ranking? I know I've been down on Georgia in the offseason because they lost 3/4 of that historic defense, but my gosh, they looked really impressive against the number 11 Oregon Ducks in Atlanta over the weekend. I mean, what more do you have to do? And I know. Alabama shut out Utah State, who is the defending Mountain West champs, 55-0, and they did look impressive. But I have Alabama number 2 in my polls, and I think Georgia is the number 1 team. I mean, they beat almost a top 10 team in Oregon, and it was the biggest margin they've ever beaten a ranked opponent. So yes, for me, that was enough for Georgia to be ranked number 1 in my polls. And that's me swallowing a lot of pride and eating a lot of crow. The thing that really popped out to me was Florida and Utah. So Utah drops down to number 13. I thought Utah should have dropped more. And I know Utah fans are going to get on to me about this. Gold and Blue, that was the first game of the year. Road trip, hostile environment, SEC environment. I know, I get it, and that's why the line was so small. And I did predict Florida to upset Utah because of all that stuff. But the fact remains, you went on the road and lost to an unranked opponent. I had you dropping significantly more than 6 spots. Maybe I was a little harsh, but honestly, 6 spots is not enough in my opinion. And Utah still might be a good team, and they have plenty of time to work their way back up in the polls. And then there's Florida. They go from non-ranked to number 12 because they beat number 7 Utah at home, even though the spread was Utah was only favored by 2.5. So a lot of people were expecting Florida to upset Utah. It almost seems like this was set up to where Florida had a really good shot of upsetting Utah, and they're like, man, how high can we get them ranked? Top 10, that might be a little suspicious, guys, but 12, I think we can get away with ranking Florida at number 12. I'm sorry, I just don't see enough to warrant Florida being ranked number 12. And honestly, I'm okay with Florida being ranked above Utah. That's why I said Utah should have been dropped further. This would have made way more sense if you would have dropped Utah, say, down to like, I don't know, 19, 20 or upper 20s, and Florida's ranked in the upper 20s, something like that. That makes more sense. But number 12, that's too high, especially based on 1 game. But it seems like they like to do this with the lower SEC teams. And don't take this as me throwing shade on the SEC. Not at all. They have dominated the national championship. They have dominated the playoffs. The SEC is the best conference in the nation right now. But there's no need to prop up those lower teams. Georgia and Alabama are carrying the SEC just fine. No worries. You don't have to make these lower teams look better than what they already are. And I do have Florida ranked in my new top 25. I think I had them like 23, 22, something like that. So yes, I did think that Florida deserved to be ranked. But number 12, that's a bit ridiculous. And this reminds me of last year whenever they ranked Mississippi State after they beat number 12 Kentucky at home 31-17. Mississippi State was 4-3 going into that game, including a loss to Memphis, a bad LSU, and a thrashing by Alabama. 4-3. But because they beat the number 12 team in the nation at home, you bump them up to number 17. That makes no sense. A 5-3 team at number 17. That had me scratching my head. And then, of course, Arkansas beat them, knocked them out of the polls again. But that made Arkansas's win over Mississippi State look good because they just beat the number 17 team in the nation. See, this is what I'm talking about. And Mississippi State finished 7-6, non-ranked, 4th in the SEC West. But they had to make sure to prop up Mississippi State for that 1 week to make it look like Arkansas beat a good team in Mississippi State. Come on, guys. We can see right through it. So it looks like they're trying to set up Florida to look like this really, really good team. So that way, anybody that beats Florida, oh, man, you beat the number 12 team in the nation. That's a pretty good win right there. Come on, guys. There is no need to do that. So the two teams that were new to the rankings were Florida, who's now ranked number 12 out of nowhere, and Tennessee, who's now ranked number 24, which I'm okay with that as well. I have Tennessee ranked in my top 25. Then two teams that fell from the rankings, number 11, Oregon, all the way out of the rankings from number 11. Wow. And then number 23, Cincinnati, because they lost on the road to number 19, Arkansas. But I think Cincinnati played better than what I was thinking they were going to. Back to Florida and Tennessee. And Tennessee, I'm okay with their rankings, but Florida is overranked. So it looks like they could be setting up a top 15 matchup whenever Tennessee and Florida play each other. Let's take a look at their schedule up to that game. So for Tennessee, they just beat Ball State 59-10. Their next game on the road to number 17, Pitt, which most people have Tennessee winning that game. But hey, they beat the number 17 team on the road. That's going to bump them way up, probably into top 15 status right there. And then you get another tune-up game with Akron. That might bump them up a couple more spots. So Tennessee, if they go on the road and beat Pitt, they will be a top 15 team going into that home game against number 12 Florida. Now let's take a look at Florida's schedule. So they just beat number 7 Utah at home. Now they get number 20 Kentucky at home. Think about that. Florida went from non-ranked to being ranked 8 spots above Kentucky. Wow, that blows my mind. However, this is a home game for Florida, so they're probably going to win that as well. That might bump Florida into the top 10. Yes, Florida could be a top 10 team after that win over Kentucky. Then after that, a tune-up game against USF, aka South Florida. And then they go on the road to Tennessee, and Tennessee will probably be a top 15 team. Florida will be a top 10 team, and if Tennessee beats Florida at home, they would have beaten a top 10 team, and then Tennessee is ranked in the top 10. That's how you do it right there. That is the recipe to get a so-so team in the top 10. And hey, if Florida goes on the road to beat Tennessee, then I would say they would be a top 10 team. But right now, based on one game, I do not consider them a fringe top 10 team. That's just not how it goes in my head. So congratulations, the plan is working. You are setting up a top 15 matchup whenever Florida goes on the road to play Tennessee, and the winner will all of a sudden be a playoff contender. And oh, by the way, for the loser, it won't be that bad of a loss because that's an SEC loss, so they'll only get bumped down a couple spots. Unless they get blown out, then maybe they'll get bumped down 5 spots. Who knows? So the AP Polls recipe to make the SEC look better than what they actually are is working. And like I said, I'm not trying to throw shade on the SEC because the upper half of the SEC is truly elite. It's just those bottom schools, they try to make them look better than what they actually are. That's all I'm saying, people. Which means in the future, Georgia could either be playing a top 10 Tennessee or a top 10 Florida, depending on who wins that game. Wow. Genius, if you ask me. That's a genius recipe, guys. Y'all let me know in the comments section, am I overreacting? Are you good with Florida going from non-ranked all the way up to number 12 because they upset Utah, which most people were calling that anyways? But I don't think it warrants them jumping up to number 12. But do you think it warranted them being jumped all the way up to number 12? That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.